Imagine living to the age of 90 and still having a story to tell. Many older people have a greater knowledge of history than any 30-second internet clip that you repost on social media.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Color of your skin.
Jerome, how old are you?
9.
9? Do you go to school?
Yeah.
Where do you go to school, Jerome?
At the Okeechobee Elementary School.
I see. What is your sister's name?
Lois.
That's Lois. And what are your other sisters' names?
Catherine. And Beulah.
We've learned to fly the air like birds. We've learned to swim the seas like fish. And yet we haven't learned to walk the earth as brothers and sisters.
What time does your mother come home?
I don't know.
When you live in a poor neighborhood, you're living in an area where you have to have poor schools. When you have poor schools, you have poor teachers. When you have poor teachers, you get a poor education. Poor education, you can only work on a poor-paying job. And that poor-paying job enables you to live again in a poor neighborhood.
Aileen King, I saw your children yesterday at the Okeechobee camp. Why didn't you put them in the nursery?
I don't make enough to pay for it.
How much does it cost to put them in?
85 cents.
85 cents.
That's right.
Aileen, what time did you come out the field this morning?
6 o'clock.
What time would you get home?
About 3:30, 4 o'clock.
6 this morning to 4 o'clock this afternoon.
That's right.
How much did you earn?
$1.
$1?
That's right. $1.
How much will your food cost you today?
About $2.
It's a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty nor the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists.
How old were you when you first started working in the fields?
8.
You've been working 21 years in the fields?
That's right.
Aileen, do you ever think you'll be able to get out of this kind of work?
No, sir.
Various cultures around the world show respect and reverence for their elderly. Many Americans look at the elderly as aging people with no value to a fast-changing world. Born in the 30s, Melrray Bullock and her siblings were very familiar with hard times. The Depression was hitting Americans harder than any other time period. But for the average African American, it was beyond hard. It was pure hell. As a child, Melray's family did not have electricity and had to use an outhouse for toilet facilities. Christmas time was special when you were lucky enough to receive oranges or fruits. Each family member had to learn how to pick cotton and tobacco at an early age.
You know, when I look back at the mental and physical toughness of my aunts and uncles, especially during a time period where you were not considered equal, it's truly mind-boggling.
It's the year 2022, and Melray's still has a smile that can light up a football stadium. So how in the world does slavery mix into her story?
I can remember as a child my mother sharing Jim Crow stories about white kids on a school bus and black kids having to walk to school, or getting books in school the very first day that were torn apart because they were kind of like hand-me-down books from the white schools. But as an adult, I did some basic research of slave owners in Warren County, North Carolina, and I was shocked to find that 4 white slave owners with the last name Bullock owned hundreds of slaves in that area, and all their slaves were forced to take their owner's last name. I wonder how young Melrray felt knowing her grandfather, let me repeat that, her grandfather, Jefferson Davis Bullock, was a slave.
Melray's parents were very instrumental in her growth, but it was her mother Luna who stressed education. Luna had made it to the 11th grade, which was phenomenal for any woman during that time period. Because she couldn't finish high school, she made sure her daughters understood the importance of education. Melrray followed her mother's advice and graduated from high school, and then attended Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and in 4 years she graduated. Soon after, she was married and starting her own family in New York City. Hard to imagine a granddaughter of an enslaved man graduating from college after facing Jim Crow, the Great Depression, and severe poverty. And whatever happened to all of her siblings who were just as poor as she was? They all became educated homeowners, retired and living well. In 90 years, Melrray Bullock has seen her children and grandchildren attain 6 college degrees, a daughter and granddaughter with master's degrees, 2 Ivy League graduates, a gold record producer, a comedian actress, a chart-climbing lyricist, an award-winning filmmaker, and 2 great-grandchildren. But most importantly, a marriage that has lasted over 60 years. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. Now showing on Greatness 5, the greatest dancers in African American history.
It's now open. You know that God's been good to you. Party with me. Celebrate with me. We got 30 seconds. Open your mouth. Lift him up. Magnify him.
You talking about the greatest dancers of all time doing their greatest dance move. Who was the best?
What do you remember about segregation?
I remember strictly having to walk miles to school in the rain or snow, and the bus would pass us with the white students or white children on there. Well, the first thing back in that day, we never got a new book. Every book we got was old and used by the white students. They gave us books. This was in elementary school and I think in high school. We never got new books. We used the old books, and if new books came in, the other students the whites got them. So it would have been an advantage just to have a new book and to have enough books. The books were rented. Your parents would have to pay before you could bring a book home. And then at the end of the year, you'd have to bring that book back. You got to make sure it's covered now. And it couldn't be damaged, or your parents would have to pay for it. So that was it. And, many times we didn't have hot lunches. They had a cafeteria in the high school that water came in when it rained, so they put down planks for you to walk on to go to, get your lunch. And I think the lunch was maybe 10 or 15 cents, and we didn't have that. So we always most of everybody took their lunch. The upper class blacks could invest in their school lunch. And the school buses were old and raggedy and cold, but they would run. And students drove the bus.
Segregation.
There was a water fountain where the bus pulled into, and there was a sign that said colored or white. The colored, usually there was an arrow or somebody told you, go around the back. That's where you got your water from. but we never got water at the front fountain. And my parents taught us, we didn't go that far, but using the bathroom and drinking water, Ma always told us to take care of that before you left home.
Do you remember seeing any prejudiced people? Because, see, y'all was segregated from white people. You never saw them, right?
No. Only time I saw a white person was when the school bus would come by, like in the spring or in the fall, if we were outside picking cotton or doing something outside, we'd see the bus. But basically, black, we were walking. Wow. We walked until we got to the 8th grade. Wow. My mother always wanted us to get as much education as possible. She had completed the 10th grade, and this was a boarding school. For her last year, my grandfather did not have enough money to pay for her room and board, so she left school. And she always vowed that not one of her kids would have to leave school because of money. She would work, she would do whatever she could to make sure it didn't happen. She had gone to school early when she was probably about 15.
Ma, what advantages do kids have today that they're not taking advantage of?
The kids now have a tendency to get just as good an education as the whites, some of them, because there's still racial discrimination going on in the class. But our kids, see, back in that day, you had black teachers, and you did not mess with a sister or a brother. And at the time I was in the second grade till the 8th grade, 7th grade, the boys would have to go out and get new switches every Monday. And if you had act up, a teacher would take you, Miss Kearney in particular, the boys would have to pull up their pants, but she would be sure to switch them on their legs. And Bernard said there was one boy, she said, she couldn't switch him. I said, why? She said, because he would grab the switch all the time. And Miss Kearney finally gave up on trying to beat him, because she know Risto, I think, not Risto, his cousin was always going to grab the switch. So she kind of gave up on him, but she couldn't get him. At the school, we had no inside bathroom, no water. The water was the well that, somebody had to draw the water from the well. And then once a week, somebody got to chore, and you were glad you got it, to go and clean up the toilet. Wow. People go out there and you would have toilet paper, and you'd wash off the top of the... Wow. But we didn't have no toilet. Today, we are more interested in getting nails done, going to get manicured, your nails manicured, buying braids. Everybody got long hair. You got to have it. And then the sneakers, they get the best of sneakers. And of course, as a child is growing, you done paid $80 and $90 for sneakers, and they can wear them only 6 months. And yet, at the school, you see him, Miss Bullock, don't come near me. He done stepped on my shoes. I said, well, nothing is going to happen. My mama told me to keep them clean. Well, I wear them to school. And they would walk around, it was a sign of class if you had on nice sneakers, new sneakers.
So the kids, from what you saw in substituting, the kids seem like, and parents seem like they're more interested in the clothing than they were.
They were.
Than education.
They cared little.
When y'all were protesting.
Okay. You ready? At Morgan, this was in the spring. And, good marching weather, good walking weather. And then there was a section out near the school you could walk to, a shopping center area. But we could not go to the movie. We could buy things, but no movie. So then there was one fella, he was big. He had been in Korea. And he would kind of lead the march, and we would leave the school, I guess at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And sometime, when I think about it, it must have been about 300 people. And he would be in front hollering and leading, and we are in back. And so as we went through, because Morgan was in a white neighborhood, but anyway, they would be peeping out, and you hear them yelling, "Here they come again." And we would go up there and march around, and they would be locking up the stores and all. And we would march around until we got tired. And then he was yelling, "It's time to go. They didn't treat me like this in Korea when I was fighting for them." They decided the theater at Northwood in Baltimore, out near the school, they had decided that we could go to the movie there.
Did you ever think in your lifetime you would see a black president?
No, I never thought it would happen during my lifetime. And even when we voted for him, I just didn't think he would win. So it was something I never thought of, I never even spoke of or dreamed of.
What advice would you give your great-great-grandchildren that are not here?
Get advice I say now. Get all the education you can. Do not put so much emphasis on clothing and styles. Styles will only last maybe 6 months to a year. Put that money, if you have money, you can get enough to get by. Start to put your money away in little savings, whatever you have. Stick it away and let it be in a saving. And that would, you could use it more. I think we have. I think one thing this need to be in that. Too many of this GoFundMe for everything. I have never seen so much begging as we see here. Now, my friend Garrett said he got it going on in New York too. I will not give $1 to somebody to a GoFundMe, and then they find out later on the person was funding themselves. Like the man the policeman, sheriff or whatever he was, that died, they got up, I think they said they had raised about $25,000 for the dog, his dog. But turn that dog loose or let some other policeman take him. Come on. A German Shepherd and you done got $25,000 for him? I should go and get me one and say something happened to my dog. Go fund me.